everybody. So, the first thing I noticed when I went to see my friend's new baby at their beautiful suburban home was how bad she looked. I mean, my friend looked terrible. She was hunched into the couch, clutching the baby with her shoulders up by her ear. And the worried new father was just hovering, not knowing what to do. So I sat down next to her, and she started to pour her heart out. She was trying to breastfeed because she believed if she didn't, her baby would be harmed. But it hurt her, and she was bleeding. Now, the lactation consultants at the hospital had all had different things to say, and she had been up for hours the night before reading 18 online articles about how she should breastfeed. "You're a pediatrician," she pleaded. "What should I do? Should I keep trying to breastfeed? Should I use a nipple shield? Should I go back to the lactation consultant? Should I use that thing that you strap on your boob? Should I just suck it up?" "Whoa," I said, "that is quite a ShouldStorm right there. Let's get out of this ShouldStorm because this would be a great time to lose your should." There she was. She was holding a miracle of life itself, but she wasn't looking. These new parents were so overwhelmed with worry that they were distracted and disconnected. Have you ever felt that way? Because for 10 years in pediatric practice, I've been watching parents do this to themselves. I'm a parent. I do this to myself too. The moment that we become parents, we are inducted into a culture of criticism that pushes perfectionistic parenting. We are told that everything we do matters and of all the harm that will come to our children if we mess up. Anxiety as a parent is almost a moral value. It's as though if you're not anxious, you're not in it. And you can't get away from this anxiety. You could be hit by a surprise ShouldStorm anywhere you go. One time years ago, I was working on a Saturday seeing patients, and my husband took our 4-month-old baby grocery shopping. They were strolling through the vegetable section on a very hot summer day, and they were cooing to each other. My husband was being adorable, showing our son all the vegetables and talking about them, when suddenly there was this woman. "That baby should have socks on! Don't you know babies should be wearing socks? His feet could get cold!" My husband was flabbergasted. Guys, it's no wonder that we parents are so anxious when we have to deal with this kind of unsolicited criticism. It happens to us in person. It happens to us online. And it makes us feel like we're under attack. The problem is, anxious parents raise anxious kids. Perfectionistic parents who alternate between demanding and over-nurturing produce demanding kids who expect to be kept comfortable. This isn't just my opinion. Google it. You'll find scores of studies in the medical journals, articles in Psychology Today or The Atlantic, reports from all over the world about how anxious overparenting is producing fearful kids who think they can't do things for themselves. 1 in 3 of our children will meet criteria for an anxiety disorder by the age of 18. And that number went up 40% in the decade prior to 2014. This is not counting all the anxious kids I see in my office who don't quite meet criteria. So, in order to help us with the way anxiety is affecting our parenting, everybody's trying to write a new playbook for parents. But we don't have just one Dr. Spock to read. We have 1,000 Dr. Spocks. And whether it's junk parenting advice or solid stuff by bona fide experts, I keep hearing the same word: should. Now, sometimes it's the word should, but sometimes it's hiding in a phrase like, didn't you know? Oh, they say. Or my personal favorite, follow these 3 easy steps. But wherever they're hiding, the shoulds are being driven by certain assumptions. The culture of parenting criticism tells us that we are fully responsible for our kids and everything that happens to them. And the worst thing that could happen to them would be an uncomfortable emotion, because we somehow confuse that with trauma. It tells us that we have to get it right all the time. And it tells us if we don't get it right all the time, we might just be messing up our kids for life. Even worse, it really feels like the experts who are trying to help us believe these things too. Even my favorite books leave me with a sense of burden. One Amazon reviewer put it this way: if you don't parent in our exact method, your kid will be screwed. And it starts in pregnancy and breastfeeding. So do you remember my friend? Well, I put my hand on her shoulder and I said, your breast milk is really great. It's fantastic, but it's not what your baby really needs. What your baby needs is you. It's you. My friend's face fell. She was so disappointed. And that's what we do, isn't it? The moment we feel not sure, we look for a should to guide us. The shoulds make us feel terrible, but they're better than the alternative. To please the shoulds, we keep busy. We do too much for our kids, we hover, we drive ourselves to exhaustion, taking them to activities to develop their interests. And then we're the ones that collapse in burnout and hand them their tablets. The thing is, that moment of my friend's need pulled words out of me that I had never said before. I wanted to help her. I wanted to help all the parents I'd seen for all these years, cut off from joy in their kids because of all that worry. I had an idea, and I told her. She grinned, and her shoulders floated down. That's simple, she said. I can try that. And she did. When I saw her again a month later, she said to me, before I had only anxiety, but now I have confidence. Wow, what did I tell her? Well, raise your hands if you guys remember stop, drop, and roll. Right? We all do. I told her to sigh, see, and start. Every time you feel a should, or you feel not sure, sigh. Take a deep breath into your belly. Take it in long and slow. Then let it go. Imagine it's a sigh of relief. Sighs help us stop and center so that we're not just reacting to the shoulds in our head. See your child. See the situation. See their body language. See if they look happy. See if they look sad. See if their fists are balled with anger. Then, and only then, start. Start listening. Start thinking about what's really needed here. Start trying something different. Do they need a hug? Do they need a minute to accept a limit you've just set? Do they need to figure it out for themselves? Start something. Start nothing. Start the wrong thing. I really don't care. Because if you sigh and see before you start, you will build skills quickly. You will get to learn your child. If you get it right, that's awesome. File that one away. If you get it wrong, you are going to trigger a should. Oh, I should have done it that way. That's okay. Just sigh, see, and start again. Now, this is simple advice, but that doesn't make it easy. How many times have we doctors told you to eat more vegetables and exercise for an hour a day? That's simple advice, and it has a massive health impact. How many of us are really doing it? And this advice is not specific, and we don't like that. But it doesn't mean that you throw out your whole playbook. It means that you apply it more wisely. So when you get to the start step, you can take that great thing you read in that book and use it better. You'll have a better sense for when to set limits with your kids and when to collaborate with them. Okay, well, I don't know about you, but I live in the real world. What does this do there? So, when our son was a toddler, he developed such bad picky eating that it had become a medical problem. I read the book. I did everything it said. Nothing worked. So one night after that kid had not eaten one bite and thrown all his food off the high chair, we let him down in frustration. I went to take some dishes into the kitchen when I heard my husband say, "Don't look now." So I looked, and there was our son, that little stinker, crawling around on the floor, gobbling up all the food. Well, I went to stop him because, you know, gross, but something stopped me. I felt myself sigh as I could finally see my son eating something. After that, my husband and I started intentionally feeding him off the floor. We used to hold hands and giggle, because what if people found out that the pediatrician feeds the baby off the floor? We lost our should. So when we sigh, we breathe deep into our bodies and we connect to ourselves and our resources. We become present. Now, the sigh is an ideal biological mechanism for pulling out of the fight or flight centers in the autonomic nervous system that show up for us as anxiety. When we sigh, we naturally breathe out very slowly, and that activates the ventral vagus nerve, which pulls us into the calm and connected centers in the autonomic nervous system. We become present and centered. When we really see our child and the situation, now we're practicing mindfulness, full acceptance of the present with awareness. I don't know about you, but I do not have time for a one-week intensive mindfulness retreat, and I cannot find time to meditate every day. But this method pulls us into mindfulness regularly, momentarily, under pressure. Like when my son was eating off the floor and I reacted with anxiety because that food might be dirty. But then I got curious about what I was seeing, and I made a mindful, creative decision. And that's how we start. Start is all about the creative process. And this is where this method starts to look very different from other parenting techniques. You don't memorize a list. You don't even have to understand it. My friend didn't. She just did it. The more you do it, the more you change. The shoulds simply become irrelevant. When growth becomes part of our process, when mistakes become how we learn, and we grow confident that we will be successful over time, we are demonstrating resilience. Oh my gosh, guess who our kids learned that from? Us, our behavior. The research says that what our kids need is the ability to self-regulate those uncomfortable emotions that we think are so bad for them. But the ShouldStorm tells us that we need to regulate our children. The research says that our kids need to be able to tolerate frustration without freaking out or shutting down. But the ShouldStorm puts us under so much pressure that we tend to freak out or shut down in the face of frustration. But when we sigh and see before we start, we show our kids a way to bounce back and reconnect. Like last week, when my son was screaming at me because you should have put the snack I like in my backpack. And my shoulders went right up to my ears, and I just wanted to shout right back at him, you should have done it yourself. You should not be yelling at me. But I remembered to sigh. And I thought, wow, I have no idea what to do right now. But I could see that my son needed to calm down. So I started with silence. And he stormed off. But 10 minutes later, he came back, and he crawled up on my lap, and he said, Mommy, I'm really sorry I yelled at you. And I gave him a hug, and I said, I know you were disappointed, buddy, but I appreciate your apology. So, obviously, by developing and using this method, I have become a perfect parent. Not at all. I make mistakes every day. But because we've been losing our should for a while now, my family seems to be building something that it's about growing in trust. So the next time you think to yourself, I should spend more time with my kids, I might be a neglectful parent. Or the next time you think to yourself, I should spend less time with my kids, I might be a helicopter parent. The next time that you feel your shoulders up by your ears, what are you going to do? Sigh, see, and start. Thanks.